Welcome to the new podcast. As you can see, this is Michelle, not Naveen. Today, Naveen is moving furniture.
Yes.
So Michelle decided to step in, and she's my executive admin. So we're going to have an interesting discussion today about what makes a good admin. So let me actually just ask that question.
What makes a good admin? Well, stepping in when you're asked.
Okay,
To be on a podcast.
who's asking?
When your boss asks.
Okay, so let's get into the first thing, right? In the role of an admin, you may have multiple bosses.
Yes, I
Right.
do have
So you
multiple
probably
bosses.
have multiple people you're supporting, and you might belong to an admin community where
Yes.
there is a leader that also asks of things of the community. So how do you deal with the multiple bosses problem?
Well, I think, first of all, being a good admin would be juggling things well. Different personalities, I would say, is the biggest thing because you are all so different.
Okay, so explain, like, there's certain what makes someone want to become an admin? Like, do you need natural skills of dealing with multiple personalities in your life? Is it, like, in your childhood, do you like, hey, I've dealt with so many different types of people, so I naturally grow up to be an admin, or why?
I don't think I was, that wasn't my dream to be an admin. I don't even think I knew what an admin was when I was a child. But definitely personality is a huge thing for being an admin, I think, because you do deal with so many different personalities, and it's not just your bosses, it's more the admin community too. Like, you have to navigate that. There's a lot of people here, like our big group, and we have a good culture here. We do have a really good culture, and I think that in itself is really important to get along with everybody. So you kind of just got to ride the wave.
Okay, but you're approaching that like that's an attribute you have.
Yeah,
Did you
Yeah.
always have that attribute?
I do. It's
Like
it's a
outside
personality
of
thing.
the primary profession.
Yes, I do. I think I can get along pretty much with everybody
Okay.
if I need to.
If you need to. When do you decide whether you need to?
I think you need to get along with everybody most of the time.
Well, not all professions are that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the reason I'm trying to zero in on what's unique about the admin position compared to other, like, as a general manager, I can get along with some and not get along with others. That's okay in the job function that I have. I don't need to get along with everybody in
Well,
my
I
current
think-
job function.
For us in the admin community, we are your assistants, so we need to get shit done. And in order to get shit done, we have to build relationships and get along with people so that we can get it done easier. Because if
Yeah.
you didn't get along with anybody, you're not going to get anything done. Nobody's going to want to help you.
Well, and I think that's the first thing, right? In most functions, you can think about relationship currency, right? So, I think every relationship you have, both personal and work oriented, there's probably there's relationship currency, right? So the more relationship currency you have when you need a favor, you're likely to get more help.
Yes.
Right. And I do think that, specifically, I'd say your view on what makes a good executive is having the ability to get along with a larger group of people. You believe that is core to what makes a good admin.
Yes, I do.
And so do you have use cases where someone became an admin and was unable to get along, like in your career with other people, and then decided to leave because of it, or the company decided that they should leave because they didn't have that core skill?
Yeah, I think that happens. I've seen it happen a lot. And it's more because you can't work, because when you're with a group of admins, if this person, it's a snowball effect. If you can't get this done here, nothing else is gonna get done. So if there's this bottleneck right in the middle who's not getting anything done, it's not gonna work out.
So it's sports analogies are good here. I think you think a basketball team, right? So everyone plays a position, but they have to play as a team. So so one element is relationship currency. The second thing you're mentioning is, okay, you need to operate as one team across the admin community.
We do, yeah.
And that happens you've worked in different size companies, right?
have.
Smaller and
Yeah.
larger.
This
Our-
one specifically is pretty large, and we're
How many admins does Pure have?
we have about, I think about 100.
100.
But PBG is the biggest group that I work with, and we have, I want to say 8.
Yeah.
Because Empire has 4.
Yeah. So, okay. So, like, look, let's say there's 8 total. You guys operate as almost like a pooled group of people to
Yes.
work on things, right? Because you're working within kind of I'd say that's fairly small, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
small
yeah.
community. What was the largest community of admins you've had to work with?
This
This
it's
is
not
big?
just, I mean, PBG, we have 8, right?
Yeah.
But PBG has to work with all of the admins to get you guys
Oh.
going. So it's just like
how many-
we're a core group of
Yeah.
PBG, but we do work with the hundreds of admins that we have at Pure, like internationally and here at HQ. So I think that this has definitely been the biggest group of admins that I work with.
Okay. So, what you've explained to me is someone who has the ability to get along, work in a team, pool. So, if you get someone nice, they'll just be a good admin.
No.
So, what's
no,
missing?
because if you're too nice, you don't get shit done either. So you have to find like that happy medium of being nice enough to build relationships and, gain people's trust. But in order to do that as well, you have to actually get the job done. And you actually have to, help other people as well. Like, I help the admins in other groups because I ask them for help. So it's like a give and take. And
But that's still a relationship and team.
it is a
What
relationship and team.
What else? Like, because
It's a lot of common sense, really. You have to have some common sense when you're an admin, because I just feel like, especially with engineers, they can be very like, you guys, your brain works differently than our brain works. And so we kind of have to
so you're saying engineers don't have comments?
No, I didn't say that.
No, they don't?
I just said that you have to have a lot of common sense when you're an admin.
And you don't as an engineer?
It's different type of common sense, right? Because you remember certain things, and a lot of the stuff you say, most of the time I don't even understand what you're saying, but I pick up what I need to pick up, and I get done what I need to get done, and I kind of prioritize that. And I think that's another big thing you have to learn, is you have to learn what your team does and be a part of the team so you can understand what's going on. Because as admins, we're not technical, so I don't technically know what you guys are talking about in a meeting, but I know that this specific project needs to be done before this project needs to be done, so we need to schedule accordingly.
Well, look, I think that is a core skill, listening and learning.
Yes.
Right? You have to be able to listen, learn, synthesize. Now,
Yes.
you don't need to go super deep in everything,
No.
but you do need to understand kind of the domain space you're working in.
Yes. And I think that that's in itself a big thing, is like just paying attention to what's going on. And
But you've changed industries, right? You worked at
Yeah.
Boston Scientific and Pure, like completely different, like health versus,
Yeah.
Bay Area SaaS tech. What are the biggest, like, obviously it's not like the things you've learned in the medical profession transfer over here, right? So like,
I learned nothing there.
you learned nothing there. What made a good admin there that's different than here?
I would say it's completely different. I feel like over there it was more office managerial. Like you kind of ran the entire area, because it was just 2 admins, 3 admins. Like, and here we have like this huge, like HQ. We were in HQ. It was like a one-off. So it's completely different. I feel like here is just such a bigger ship to steer. Because there's just so many different aspects that goes on our day-to-day basis. I mean, even with you guys have, your calendar compared to that calendar is just completely different.
Well, so one of the things, and I'm curious whether you'll say I'm right or wrong, right? Because I've had an admin for now over 30 years. And I don't think of the job as a well-defined, well-structured job. Because I think everything's situational in terms of the situation you go in.
Yes.
So, I think when we first met, I'd say now probably almost 4.5-ish years ago, and we were trying to figure out, okay, whether you would be my admin, right? I'm like, there's a few things I need that I'm looking for. One is clock speed, right? I'm like, I have no boundaries, right? It's just like I say this to the team, not just my admin. I'm like, I'll call you anytime, any day. Like, I have no time boundaries. And not every executive is that way.
Yeah.
Some executives have more boundaries. I don't keep those boundaries with my admin. I'm like, I'll call you whenever I feel like calling you and need something and we need to talk about anything. Yeah. But I also expect pretty quick response, right? Like when something needs to get done, I don't want a queue building.
Yeah.
Because I pride myself on not being a bottleneck to others.
Yes.
Right? But I think so I do view the admin, and I think my first admin actually taught me this, is they're an extension of an external representation of you as an executive. Your admin is now, if every executive is different, then the external representation expected of an admin is different, which means there is no definition of good or not. It's maybe the definition of good is how well do you align to the external representation of what your executive needs. Meaning if I wanted to show up as an asshole, then I would need an admin who's good at being an asshole. And if I wanted to show up as, very collaborative, I would need an admin that is also showing up very collaborative. Does that make sense, or is that wrong?
I think kind of it makes sense because because you, Angad, Arnab, Paul, Katie, you guys are all very different. But I don't, change my personality every time I talk to somebody. But I do, change how I handle situations for you versus, how I would Angad. Because Angad's different. He likes things differently.
Yeah.
And so does Arnab. Arnab is there. You guys are all very different. And I think that it's not that I'm going to show up as an asshole because you want me to be. But if the situation warrants being an asshole, I can be if I need to be. Or if I need to show up and, work with a team, I can do that too. And I think that's one of the main things as being an admin is that you kind of have to just morph into what you need to do to get it done. And really just building a relationship with who you support and meshing well. If you don't mesh well, it's not going to work out. You guys have to we get along very well. And people tell me all the time, I don't know how you support Prakash. He's just, it's just so much. He's always you do so much. And I'm like, do I do that much? Are we a lot?
Yeah, I don't think I'm a lot.
I don't think you're a lot either. And when people say that, I'm like, because we mesh well and you wouldn't maybe have the same reaction from somebody else.
Well, and I think that's part of why I think in that you're hiring for making sure that mesh exists. Yeah. Right?
But you hired me, so it was kind of like all of your VPs, they just kind of had to take me. They had to figure out if I would mesh with them, which thankfully I did. But I think that's the important thing too, is getting to it's not always easy if you get someone who don't necessarily click with. It takes time.
But I think that's part of how I'm Indian. I grew up with arranged marriages. And we were told growing up that you're not marrying the person, you're marrying the family. You know what I mean? So it's don't think about the person you love, think about their family. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of an interesting concept. And if I apply that to kind of the hiring of the admin role, I'm not trying as a leader to build something for me. I'm trying to build an organization. Yeah. And I'm also trying to set the tone and the culture and the expectation. Yeah. So while Angad and Arnab and Katie and all the people on our team are different, they have something unique in terms of how they operate that is common. Yeah. We all operate on quick clock speed. Yes. Right? And if they don't, they wouldn't belong to part of the family. Yeah. So there are certain common paradigms. And then when you bring in an admin to support that, some of those, while everyone's styles are different, some of those cultural principles are there, which create a common operating environment for the group, right? We don't like wasting time. We like going fast. We like being bold in certain things. Those are all like cultural attributes of a leader that have to set the tone for their organization, right? But I don't think that works without the admin actually making it real. Like, executives don't do the work. It's the admins that do the work.
Yeah.
Right? So the question is, if you go into a completely different environment, right? Let's say hypothetically, we do a swap and you're going into different size org, different style of leader, right? How do you ensure, like, do you just change your operating model? Like, what is your approach there? Or do you just say, no, this is not right for me. I'm going to go look for another thing that fits more of my style of operating. Like, how do you think about that?
I think for most of the admins that I know, we are all very much able to learn and kind of like ride the wave of whatever executive that is there. But I mean, if it's so bad that you don't click and you don't mesh and you're not happy in an org, then I would say, yeah, it's time to tap out and find something else. But for the most part, I think that it is what you make of it. You kind of have to like work with them to find something to make it work. Like you have to and that's one of the main things of riding the wave and, like making connections and making it work. You have to kind of, not saying like train your executive, but you kind of have to like train them to do certain things that you think would make everything run a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're there for a reason. I think one of the things that as admins we get kind of like, before you build that relationship, you think like, what am I doing here? Like, the imposter syndrome, like, I don't even know what they're talking about. Like, what does this mean? Like, control, delete? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know.
But look, as executives, like when I'm when I joined Pure as a new executive, and I'm like, I don't know anything about storage. Like, it's no different. Like, I joined the company with zero infrastructure storage background. So, like, that's not unique to the position. Executives feel the same way as well when you enter a new situation.
And I think that's the thing is, like, to learn and try to do your best and figure it out as you go. And that's, like, with the personalities, too. You just kind of, everyone's so different. And I think that to be a successful admin, you have to figure out and remember that, we add value to wherever we're at. We're going to add, like, significant value, and you have to figure out what that value is and kind of just, like, keep pushing it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to use words to describe that value.
Value as, like, culture is the biggest thing I feel like we do in DX. Like, our culture is pretty good. Like, we have a really great culture. Like, everybody wants to come and do DX things. And I think as a whole, Pure, our admin group has a really good culture. We all mesh well. And considering how many people there are, like how many admins we have, it's kind of unique, right? That we all kind of can like hang out, work together, and get the job done without like any big issues. And so the value I think that we bring is teamwork, your attitude, like positive attitude, and just the willingness to get things done. No matter what you need to do to get it done, we just kind of get it done.
Could a pessimist be a succcial admin? If someone wasn't an optimist?
Nah, I don't think so.
You don't think so? You have to be an optimist?
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you have to think positively, like how are we going to get this done? Like how are we going to work together to get it done? I mean, you make us every year in our review, like, what have I done wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. I think you're great. And every year you're like, no, I'm not. I'm not great. Tell me what I've done wrong.
Okay, so let me set context, right? My performance review process, this is a sidebar, asks everyone to say what they did that was great, good, and bad. But they also have to do that for me, meaning all of my directs have to tell me what I was great at, what I was good at, and what I was bad at. And if they can't, I will lower their performance rating because they're not good at giving feedback.
That's me. Well, I give good feedback. And I think that it's hard for me to, because I do think you guys are great leaders, like everybody in DX. I feel like you're good leaders. And I don't know if it's because I'm
But
in
everyone
the
can always be
bubble.
better. Like
Yeah,
you're a
everybody
mom.
can be better.
Like,
Yeah.
do you treat your kids the same way?
No.
Well, okay then, right?
No, because yeah,
They could
it's
always do
different.
better,
They
right?
can always do better,
And
they
you have
should
high
always do.
you have
Yes.
high expectations of
Yes.
them. Why
Yes.
wouldn't you have high expectations of your executives?
I do, and it's hard for me to pinpoint something that I'm not happy with, or I think you need to.
It's not about happiness. You could
Yeah.
be happy and still be like, what? You could do better.
Okay, well, that's on my goals this year. So
It's been on your goals
you know
every
what?
year.
Next year we're going to do another podcast, and I'll just list off what I think Prakash needs to work on.
Okay.
Okay.
So pivoting gears is a career.
Yes.
Right. There was a time when admins were generally looked down upon. If you go back in like the Mad Men style, it was like,
Secretary.
secretaries, probably a lot of bad, HR behavior as well at the time.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, but there's probably, more advanced cultures that probably think of this as a critical role in the operating of the group. There are probably still companies that think about admins as glorified secretaries that take notes at meetings, right? Where do you think we're at in society?
I think it depends on what company you're at, honestly, because I think like Silicon Valley, like tech admins are looked at way above any other admins. Why? I don't know. I don't know if it's because it's the tech industry, but like even just coming from like any other field, it's completely different. Like we are treated a lot better in the tech industry than I have been in any other industry. And I think that like that's just around the board, like on
How do you enter because when you think about professions and careers, like you said earlier, like I didn't grow up wanting to be an admin, right? You didn't think about that as a career.
no.
Yet you're in it and it's a career. And I think it could be a good career if defined right. So the question is it a viable career path? Should we be like, and what are the skills and training and things that make it a viable career path for somebody?
I think it is, and I think it's a good career path if you like. Well, I think me being a mom, I feel like it's kind of like bleeds in together, because you're basically the EA of your home.
Yeah.
And so I think that it kind of bleeds into this. So I think it's something that just kind of, I think my first office job I was like 15, and I think you just go from there. Like I used to work there after school and learn stuff, and then it just kind of like one of those things that you just pick up more and more skill. And I think if there was, like there are courses that you can take for business administration, and I think that it's a good career path if you can handle multiple personalities and have a thick skin, because you kind of have to.
So the baseline is, dealing with multiple people,
Yes.
building strong relationships, being an optimist.
Yeah, and I think you have to have kind of a thick skin too, because like some of the things that you have to deal with, you're just like, what?
What's the worst thing you've had to deal with?
I think the worst thing I had to deal with was when I worked at.
You don't have to name the company if you
I'm not
don't.
gonna name the company, but I mean he was an older guy, and he was just, it was like Mad Men style, and he was just he didn't like any of the women who were in the administration, and it was just, and it was weird because it was, to go from like having 21st century living to back to like 1942, it's just like whoa. So I think like just navigating stuff like that, is just part. It happens, right? I'm in my 40s, so I'm going to deal with people like that in my career, and I think that was probably just eye opening. It wasn't hard because I have a thick skin, right? Like I don't take things personally, and I kind of laugh it off.
I think there's a lot of data, not just in the admin field, of like, things that women had to deal with generationally in different careers. You grew up at a time where you've seen multiple stepwise changes. And I think that's true at kind of, not just the admin, it's probably more pronounced in the admin position, but it was, I think society has generally moved to more normalcy, but I want to go back to your saying, hey, being a mom prepared me because you're like the EA of your home, right? So what about male admins then? You don't see too many in the field.
That's true. We don't see too many. I think we have one here at Pure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what makes him good at what he does?
I don't actually work with him that much, but I mean, he's pretty solid that when I do work with him, you know, and I think that it's just, I don't know if it's men don't want to be admins or if it's something that, you know, they're kind of pushed into like stereotypical roles.
Look, I would give you the example for many, many years. Doctors were men and nurses were women. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to be a male nurse, that was frowned upon societally.
Yeah.
Right? It no longer is, right? I think there's a large proportion of male nurses now that exist in the field and domain, but I don't know that I've seen that statistically follow the same course in admin land.
No, I don't. It hasn't. I mean, I don't even think, every time we interview for new admins, I've never interviewed a male admin.
Okay.
So I think that it's
would it change the dynamic in the group?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't have to do with like if you're a man or a woman. It has to do with like, can you get stuff done and are you easy to work with?
Okay.
You know, like I feel like it's more the mind frame, not the sex.
Okay.
You know, like
so you think we've moved beyond that?
Yeah, I think we've moved way beyond that. I think that it's more of a, honestly, I don't know. Like, come join us. We're cool. You know?
This is the male admin recruiting video.
It is. Like, come spice it up over here. Like, you know, like it would definitely be fun to have like a variety of people in the office. Like I think we're pretty good on diversity here in general, but I don't. And then I think Micah's in Chicago or New York.
Okay.
It's over there. So we don't work with him as much.
Yeah, at this site.
Yeah, at this site.
Okay, but going back to the career thing, right?
I think it's a great career.
You progress, like, you think why do you think it's a great career? Like, why would you?
For me personally, I think it's a great career. Like, and I have fortunately not had to deal with like a bunch of stuff. I've had good bosses and I've had good jobs for the main part of my life. So, I think that in general, for me, like it's flexible too, right? Like that we're here and we're able to come in and work with you guys. I don't know if it's because of the ADD, but most of us have it when you're an admin. But you don't have to sit down on your desk all the time. I can get up, I can walk around, I can go talk to you, I can go talk to another team. I don't have to be doing the same thing over and over every day. That would drive me crazy if I had to do the same thing
I want to touch on that because we didn't cover that in the attributes or skills section, right?
Well, I don't think you have to have ADD. It's just the majority of us do. We've all talked about it, and I think that our brain works differently. And that's why we can do 1,000 things at a time and still be like, yeah, I'm good.
No, look, there's a lot of, this is interesting on the gender. There's a lot of brain research generally. If you think about, in a binary context, they've done a lot of studies of like men versus women. Mm-hmm. And women typically, like the women brain at rest is more active than the men brain at rest. Mm. And women typically parallel process more.
Yeah.
Right. So men, from a hormone profile in the research that I've read, can be focused a little bit more, but tend to not parallel process as effectively as women do. Mm-hmm. Right. That, plays into your, maybe that answers the question of the statistics. If there's a lot of parallel processing, if there's a lot of context switching, it leads to people that tend to parallel process more, which we kind of brand as ADHD, mm-hmm. right? But you're typically doing many, many things at the same time.
Yeah.
And a high degree of interruption as well.
Yes. Yeah, I'm interrupted all day long. And I think that it's one of those things where I'm able to like snap back into whatever it is that I'm doing.
Yeah, so short context switching.
Yeah, and it's just something that I know that I want to say like 6 of us just on PBG have ADHD. We always laugh about it because we're like, we can do 1,000 things and we're still okay. We're fine. We're not like overwhelmed.
But look, I know some moms that are like that and some moms that aren't. I know some moms that are like, no, I need strict structure and strict scheduling, and no, we're not going to, like the flexible, disruptive ADHD parent, like that exists in some portion of mom, doesn't in other portion of mom.
Well, and on that note, like when my kids were growing up, I was pretty structured with them too.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we had a schedule from like the time they woke up to the time they went to sleep. Like I was pretty structured with them, and it was like, and it was to help keep us all on track. Because
But do you think about your job as an admin to bring structure to the chaos I introduce?
Yes. And you create a lot of chaos. So it keeps us all on our toes, which is a good thing. And that's why I enjoy working with you, because there's always, it's never the same thing. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I love about being an admin is like every single day is something completely different. And I get to do something different every day. And I get to like help different people, see different things, go different places. And that's the flexibility of being able to do different things is one of the reasons like I really enjoy being.
Because when you read a job profile for an admin, it's like must have calendaring skills, must be
like
able to do travel and expense, must be.
Expenses.
Well, we're going to touch on expenses in a second. So, but like, so, you know, the job description is written,
and those are like the basic things that we all have to do that. You know,
okay, so break it down. What is the basic things? What are the middle things? And what are the advanced things?
I think that our basic things are, you know, scheduling your meetings, running events, expenses, and making sure you guys get to where you need to be. And I think that calendaring is like an all-day thing every day. It never stops, especially in the Silicon Valley. Like you guys have so many meetings all the time, and it's like Tetris all day. You're just like, let's move here. Like, oh, he can go to the restroom and then he comes back. Like you literally, I mean, it's like an all day thing. So that I think is like in the back burner because we just do that all day long. It's just running all day long. We rearrange things all day long.
You don't find it exhausting?
No.
Yeah, okay.
I don't. I think it's just it's like Tetris, right? We're just like playing a game with your lives all day long. Like, let's move him here, let's go there, let's do this, let's do that.
Sounds exhausting to me.
It is, but I think it's the brain, right? Like you're just like, oh, we can move this, that, you know. So that's like I feel like all day long in the background. Events, that's just something that we do here, and I think it depends on your BU. So our culture's good, so we try to do cross-functional BU events, try to do DX events. We're in ERG, we try to do pure good stuff. Like, I think stuff like that is a part of it, but it's not like the main job, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like, but to build the culture is really important because then we want people to feel like we're a team, we're one. So that's a pretty big one, but also not that big. It's like in the background that we do all day long, all week long. I would say our big meetings that we have, like our QBR coming up, stuff like that, that's very tedious with Katie and we all, you know, all of that stuff. I feel like that uses more brain power because we have to get everyone together on the agendas and everything like that. So things like that takes up more space, mm-hmm. like our big meeting events. But and expenses, we all hate them so much.
Has that ever been, like, look, you've seen multiple companies, you've been in the industry for a while.
It's awful everywhere.
It's awful everywhere. It's
just, you know, and it's not even hard. It's just something nobody wants to do. You know, it's just one of those things that it's not hard. It's not like I'm going to perform surgery. I know it'll only take me 20 minutes, but why is it so hard to sit down and just do it?
Well, look, to any software engineers out there, you can make, you know, the next great startup idea, build an easy-to-use expense system.
Yeah, so can AI do it for us now? Like, can we just chat GPT everything?
Well, now that you bring up AI, you know, I just wanted to ask, I think I gave you a goal this year to say, like, you know, use AI for everything.
Yes.
How are you doing? Like, what's the, what have you discovered? What is AI good for admins? What is AI bad for admins?
I think AI is good for admins to respond to emails. Like basic emails. You can just ask it to do things for you in that aspect, and you don't have to like use any brain power. But then that's kind of scary, right? Like, is my brain going to die? Because I'm asking AI to do everything for me.
I wondered the same thing.
You know, like, are we going to have Alzheimer's at like 45? Like, do I have 3 good years left? You know, like.
But look, like we've always said this, like everyone's like, when the calculator comes, we're going to forget about math.
Yes.
Right? It's a tool. Like, it frees up time so we can use our brains for other things. If we stop using our brains, yes, well, I'll develop, like, Alzheimer's early. But, like, if we, you know, realistically, we shouldn't be using the brain power to do this email. We should be using it for more productive things.
Yes, I agree. Well, I do like it, like to respond to emails really fast because, we get thousands of them.
Yeah. So what else is AI good for?
I like AI to make my calendar invites fun.
Okay.
What else is it good? I wish it could do my expenses. That's on the goals.
That's on the goals list. Try to figure out AI expense management.
Yeah, that'd be good. Our music is good.
Yeah. AI music. Yeah, we've done that. We've used AI for, opening all hands and songs, and it's become accessible.
Yeah. But that's pretty much, I ask it to give me quotes on stuff, when we have to throw events, and I think generating quotes with AI, it's good. It's a good tool to have. But again, I try to not overuse it because I don't want to get dumb.
I go the other way. I tend to overuse it and not worry about getting dumb. So, okay, well, I think that's been a good coverage. So if you were to recap, right?
Okay. Because I'm just all over the place.
No, yeah, it's pretty structured, but let's recap, right? So for people who are listening, I'm sure you're going to have the cohort of people who are thinking about going into being an admin, people who are already an admin looking for tips. What's your kind of recap of the conversation? What should people know?
Recap. Expenses suck.
Okay.
No, seriously, though. I think that being an admin is a good career path, and I think that it's not easy. Everybody thinks it's an easy job to do and anybody can do it, but that's just not the case. It's not an easy job. Not everybody can do it. You kind of have to have the right personality, the right attitude, positive attitude. You have to really just kind of be able to make decisions on the spot and not second guess yourself. You have to just do it and have the confidence to do it, and then kind of worry about it oh, I messed up. Maybe next time I won't do that. But I think that all around, just being proactive, learning people's body language and attitudes and vibing with everybody in a good, positive way, creating a good environment to work in, you get stuff done. So I think that positivity, hard work.
So many platitudes. My thing, it just boils down to chemistry. You need to have this external representation. There's admin work and there's executive admin work. I think executive admin work is more about being a good external representation. Yeah. Just because the front interface to any executive is your admin. They're the first interface. My first admin, Rosemary, she told me this. She's like, look, the first impression anyone's going to have of you, any other team, any other executive, any other company, is going to be your admin. Mm-hmm. So why would you choose to not put the best foot forward? Yeah. That is one of the most important hiring decisions you should make. So to any executive out there kind of listening to this, I think I would put high stock in that, because that really is an external representation of yourself.
Yes, I agree.
All right, with that, we'll close. Thanks.